Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Akbar Taufikul Hakim, and in this occasion, I want to explain about my paper, which have a title of Political Ecology Analysis of Natural Resources Management with Use of Substance of Local Wisdom. Okay, I will explain from the background first. From the background first. From years ago, today, various natural resource problems have risen, both sea, air, and land. So far, the problems that arise and occur are understood to be technical problems. So that the implications of solving problems and solutions to existing resources are also technical too. So that there is no meeting point for solving the problem and making this problem never finished. And even new problems arise again, by analogy to digging a hole and closing the hole again. However, there is no harm in solving these problems, as well as a technical solution, and even very much needed. However, this technical solution will not always be effective and lead to new problems. So it can be said that there are socio-political problems related to access to use of natural resources, always meddling with resource problems with excessive modernization from the surrounding indigenous communities with the technical solution provided causes these indigenous peoples to seem marginalized because they cannot benefit from the benefits of managing these resources economically. Not only that, but also as the main victim when there is environmental degradation due to massive exploitation by private parties who have easily obtained permission from the state. The exploitation of natural resources is like an economic machine that becomes the utility of human needs. The objective of natural resources management tends to always be glorified development, namely sustainable development by always bringing technical solutions without paying attention to the substance of local wisdom, making the direction of development tend to be economically centric. The main assumption of ecological modernization is that economic growth can be reconciled with the ecological sustainable and rests on three strategies. Uh, First, production ecology, such as a clean production without a destructive waste. Number two, improve regulatory and mark framework for ecology. And the last, greening, social and corporate values and their practices. Various social movements such as coffee days, our campaigns, uh, anti-plastic bag movement, and the use of tumblers from the examples. From this point, it can be seen that in ecological modernization, the solution to the ecological crisis is taken with the holistic approach and requires a good environmental management through technology, marketing, state intervention, and even social movement. The political ecology approach grew as part of the evolution of the involvement of social scientists in ecological issues. Ecological changes are related to the emergence of ecosystem stability since the decline in the quantity of quality and the quantity and quality of natural resources due to the increase in population size and quality of society. The ecological crisis stems from the increasing human population, which is increasing significantly every year, even uncontrolled. So that the population explosion because extraordinary interaction resulting uncontrolled unstable changes in ecosystem with the impact of ecological crisis. The problem that occurs is that the modernity of civilization that is spurred by a strategy has forced the governments in its country to forceful push for massive exploitation of natural resources by turning the uh, balance uh, conservation. As understood in adapting the environment, the community obtains and develops wisdom in the form of knowledge or ideas, customary norms, cultural values, and localism activities and tools. As a result of the abstraction of managing the environment, often their knowledge of the local environment is used and accurate guide in developing life in their neighborhood. The diversity of adaptation patterns to the environment that exists in Indonesian society that has been passed down from generation to generation serves as a guideline in utilizing natural resources. Public awareness to preserve the environment can be grown effectively through a cultural approach. If this awareness can be raised, it will become a huge force in environmental management. In this cultural approach, strengthening social capital, such as social cultural institution, local wisdom, and norms related to environmental conservation, is important to be in the main basis. As we know of the current economic crisis, people who live by depending on nature and can maintain balance with the environment with local wisdom what they have and do not really feel the economic crisis. That they feel us hit as people whose lives are greatly influenced by modern life. Therefore, local wisdom is important to be preserved in society to maintain balance with the environment and at the same time preserve the environment. The development of local wisdom cannot be separated from the influence of various factors that will influence human behaviors towards the environment. Ecological politics can be defined as an instrument to understand the complexities of having access to and control over resources and their impact on environmental health and sustainability. Every policy taken regarding natural resources will have an impact on the configuration of economic and social forces in society. The gap between the poor and the rich can widen or narrow because of the policies or natural resources taken by the government. Environmental taxes imposed on companies that produce was have an impact on companies' profits and the environment around the factory. It can be summarized in a logic of thought. Environmental politics is an instrument to see the rivalry and or cooperation between social justice, market interests, and environmental protection. Environmental politics examines that the political economy aspects of managing society's natural resources. Ecological politics is politics regarding natural resource management. The government must design the right policies in dealing with environmental problems and environmental politics, offering various options and alternatives that can be taken in dealing with the natural resources management. The design the right policy, the policy process model consists of six stages. Uh, that is agenda setting, policy formulation, policy legitimation, implementation, policy and program evaluation, and finally, and policy change. There are three perspectives in environmental politics, namely a scientific perspective, economic perspective, and environmental ethics perspective. From a scientific perspective, environmental politics must adopt and adapt the truth agreed upon the academic community. But in indigenous people, environmental politics are must adopt the truth agreed upon by the epistemological uh, local wisdom. Ecological politics as an approach, namely an attempt to examine the cause and effects of environmental changes. They are more complex than just a biophysical system that is concerning the distribution of power in one society. This approach is based on thinking about different interest groups, different perception, and plans from the environment. Through an ecological politic approach, it is possible to see environmental management issues, especially those related to the substance of local wisdom, where the right refers to the minimum needs or individual standards from the right objects such as the right to live, right to vote, right to environment, and others. Justice emphasizes the allocation of ownerships and control over right objects. That is referring to relational problems between individuals and between groups. Internalization of local wisdom is in managing the natural resources of endemic people may be a dialectical method between people in the indigenous communities who have an equivalent culture and within the same environment. This dialectic will minimize harm to natural environment in customary territories by preventing damage from an early age through local action as a manifestation of the values or norms of local wisdom that exist in indigenous people. Local wisdom with cultural values inherent in indigenous people becomes the premise for indigenous people in managing their natural environment, so their continuity or, sustainability and harmony of life with nature can be well preserved. The values of epistemological local of endemic people are conditioned with non-circular parts, myth, and beliefs. Environmental preservation support like ecological values of local wisdom within the update context must be done integratively. This integrative preservation of the natural atmosphere has elements of the event of an entire human consequences as a result of the values contained in localism are superior in indigenous peoples. Thus, it's terrible. It's a terribly applicable if the natural environment conservation system is taken from the superior values that exist in indigenous people. If the preservation of natural environment based on local wisdom will be applied as a strategy, then native knowledge has a vital role in building awareness and mental and ethical attitudes, yet as human views on the preservation of the natural environment. Thus, the ecological worth in local wisdom contributes to the preservation of the natural environment. My conclusions and sorry we okay my conclusion and suggestions are the emergence of an issue that is very important and must be a priority concern by the state and society of Indonesia, that is the ecological crisis. Because of what? Because there is a very mutual interaction between people in society and the environment. We can simply see that the massive exploitation of the environment for natural resources as well as land acquisition as much as possible from the sake of developing industrialization without comprehensive thinking and planning for this action. Uh, and we can see in nowadays uh, it become a syndrome of exploitation, so that the emergence of an ecological imbalance that can become a threat or a major disaster for the life of the ecological aspects in the future, coupled with extreme climate change and the occurrence of natural disasters, especially with the hegemony that occurs in Indonesia at this time. From the application of local wisdom to indigenous people, of course, quite been the form of substance of local wisdom itself. Because what we all know is that caring for and preserving the environment and the environment and the benefits that have been provided by environment. Nothing is better than what indigenous people even do. Even though, because in local wisdom, indigenous people are always based on moral values, custom, and customary law and adult law to create a local wisdom substance that has been agreed upon, carried out, even proven for hundreds, even a thousand of years by indigenous people. And my suggestion is the solution to fix the problem of this ecological crisis is to re-implement the local wisdom of indigenous people by restoring the special rights of indigenous people and legal policies and ecological political studies to maintain ecological balance. So that the implementation of adaptation of indigenous people with the application of the substance of local wisdom that has existed from the time of the ancestor by granting and maintaining the integrity of community privilege and rights to acquire land, territories, and resources from individual ownership of land lots, as well as acquisition with a boasting of the country name, so that there will be another massive variety of knowledge system, both those related to the environment and social society, which the character bolding of various values, norms, and morals of indigenous communities, which will form a distinctive national character. That's all for me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.